Can't wait. Yep. Was it, Lily, if we could run us through the drill around the recording and the formalities associated with that, please?
Yeah, sure thing. I might just hand it over to Melanie and Callum to explain, if you could, please. Thanks, Melanie.
Okay. Lily, can you put the agenda up on a slide screen there, please? I don't have enough hands and arms to.
That's okay. Might do that for us because Lily will be taking a minute, so Ben can help with that. Yeah.
Thank you, Ben.
Okay.
Scroll down to confirmation of minutes. That would be great. Thanks.
Okay. We're moving to agenda item 1, the confirmation of the minutes on the February 2025 joint committee meeting, and that those minutes are from the meeting held on the 24th of February, and where recommendation is that they be confirmed as a true and correct record. Do you have a mover in that direction, please?
Yes, happy to move it or second it. John Blackburn.
Okay.
Can
John?
I just give a moment?
That'll be for the 25th of February.
Yes.
Apologies. I think it might be the 24th. There's two dates there. We'll correct to the accurate date. My apologies, Sarahomai.
Yep.
Could I just ask for something to be clarified on it?
Yeah, by all means.
Sorry, just on page 5, it was in regards to discussion about the reference Rolopo membership. There was a sentence there that says, and that I asked about the intent for the remaining 3 members to come from other groups. It wasn't quite phrased that way. I was more questioning about the other 3 members, they're spread across the Kaipara catchment. So I'm wondering if that can be just a little bit adjusted in that wording to reflect that.
Yes, sure. That's a geographical spread, Michelle.
Yeah, it was more about that coverage to enable those members to connect with a wider range of people around the whole catchment. Yeah,
we can make that change. Thank you for that clarification.
Cheers.
And just a minor correction. Oh, can you hear me? Okay. Yep. Page 3.
Yeah. It was just a minor thing. Yeah.
Member Mike, Member Tanner.
Right. Just a minor correction. Page 3 on last para. So the first sentence says Te Aroa Lakes Trust. It's actually Tarot. Te Aroa River Iwi Trust, and it's actually Touch Media, which is the people that were doing the work for them. So I'd probably say that you'd be contacting Touch Media.
Sure. Thank you very much for that clarification. I might just make sure we've got that right by email, Mike, but thank you.
Thank you. Cheers.
Yeah. I wonder also, Marina Hitaraka, Would you like to talk? I think you emailed something through to us just in relation to the same points that Member Carmichael had just raised. Has that been covered off, or do you want to add anything to there?
I just wanted to add a note about the team's point around the membership was also to ensure our cultural safety. So that could just be added in, I think it was page 3 per my email, Lily, if that's all right.
Yes, I've got that email.
Sure, just a nicer, a much perhaps a clearer explanation of those aspects. So we will update the minutes in line with both Michelle and Marina's feedback there. So we'll make sure that that happens. Thank you for reading those minutes so carefully, everyone.
We passed our test.
Even though I'm well.
Okay, so I guess I pulled the trigger a little bit too early. Now, can we ask for someone to confirm those minutes? So they will remain unconfirmed?
No, we have a couple of hands up there. We had
sorry. So I'll look for hands now.
Yeah, that's okay. I can help you with that, Tammy, or Ben can. So we had John Blackwell accept, I proposed to accept the minutes originally. Yes, and then confirm, subject to the changes we've just heard. I believe there were 2 hands, including Michelle's. Is that correct? Michelle, are you happy to second there?
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you.
It's not working out for me, this whole business.
Tammy, do you need another email?
It's just, like I'm trying to run this off a screen in front of me, and I'm losing sort of track of where we're up to, what we're supposed to be doing. So this is the agenda item 5.1. Is that what we're on now?
Correct.
And is everybody looking at the same sheet? I get a feeling I'm looking at one sheet and everyone else is looking at something else.
Oh, yeah.
5.1 it is.
5.1. I'm on the same one as you.
Okay, so we're all on this sheet here?
Yes.
Very good.
Right.
I think that's where we're up to. Is that someone moves that we received that?
I'm happy to move.
Action tracker. Thank you, Georgina. Do you have a seconder?
Jack, I'm happy to second.
Thank you, John. All those in favour, please say aye.
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 Any objections? Any abstentions? Any discussion? Okay, moving on to the next item. Board working plan. We have a mover and a seconder to receive the Joint Committee Board working plan.
Kia ora, Tame. I'm happy to move. That's Amy.
Thank you, Amy.
Georgina's happy to second.
Thank you, Georgina. All those in favour, please say aye.
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 All those against? Any abstentions? Thank you. Any discussions? Any points or any matters you want to raise with the work plan?
Kia ora, Tame. I may just raise one aspect, if I may. And that's just to clarify that we moved the interest paper from this month. This is Joint Committee and Executive Team interest from this month online to July, and that's to reflect that we are capturing all of the interest by our new members, Member Tana, and also obviously Brewer and Davis. So we will bring that interest back. We have recorded them and we'll note them for the papers, but we will just make sure that we bring that back in a more formal way. The papers were finished for this hui before we could capture all of the new interest. So that will just make it more transparent for everyone, including those we work with, to bring that back in the July hui. Just to let everyone know, we are in conversations with Kapihu marae for the July hui. So that will be a really good discussion on marae in Northland. And obviously a centre of that conversation will be, once again, the Kororo Tuku Iho conversation, our progress report and updates, and also hearing from Hokainga in the usual way. So kia ora for that. And we have Jack as well with his hand up.
Kia ora, Jack.
Kia ora, Tato. Look, I just have one little question about I think, firstly, thank you. The work plan is fantastic. One little question about on the risk management side. Probably just need some clarification. What kind of risk to the FTEs do we have if we have some kind of downturn or the government delays funding? I mean, our workforce is contracted. Some of it's permanent, some of it isn't. Do we retain enough flexibility to be able to carry on no matter what headwinds we strike?
Through the chair, kia ora, Jack. Thank you. Those are good discussions. I'm very happy to have them actually, because the next item will talk about some of that. So you may recall that the Kaipara Morikura, that is the operational arm for KMR, has had an establishment cap of 14 FTEs, full-time equivalents. We've never actually reached that cap for a number of reasons. We run ourselves very lean. Over most of the last 12 months, calendar year, we've actually run at 9.175 full-time equivalents, FTE, which is very light. That's a deliberate choice because we are in the process at the minute of, now we're into program maturity, having come out of startup. We're positioning ourselves for the new world in which we're operating. Some of that's driven by, of course, changes in the operating environment. Some of that's driven by the fact that we are doing slightly different things in the work program from here on in. So right now we're 10.75 FTEs under the change proposal we're going through at the minute under NRC's guidance and support. We're looking to get to 11 point. Sorry, I forget the FTEs. It's a point 11.75, but always I keep us under that on the basis, Jack, to your point, that if we did receive a smaller allocation from the Crown than expected, we could manage that while retaining the expertise, and it is expertise we genuinely need within the Kaipara Morikura. We also have a range of contracting arrangements, as you know, because we work across 640,000 hectares in 2 regions. We contract out the field, a lot of the field advisor and kaitiaka field advisor capability. And so, of course, for now, that's right-sized to the number of landowners and groups that we work with. If anything, there's pressure to bring in some more capability on that side. I think we've spent a lot of time training and mentoring those field advisors, those kaitiaki field advisors. I am always conservative generally with financials, and so I think we would be in a good position to retain current. If anything, the pressure now is to slightly increase to match the new demand. And just because it's not written down, over the weekend I received the 3 1/4 year key performance indicator statistics from staff. It was sent on the Friday, but I picked it up on the Sunday yesterday. We are 1 landowner or group short of 900 landowners and groups working with us now around the catchment, which again is a really big increase on because we're coming into the winter months, which are of course really, really busy. So the point there is I believe we're well positioned for whatever the future holds. We'll talk more about that under the next paper. And if we do receive a little bit of a lesser amount or are asked to do different things with our capability, I believe we're well positioned. We take a conservative view, and we will see that through the annual work plan discussions with the Crown. Kia ora, Jack.
Thank you. Tommy, I've got one other little question relating to risk, if I may. And that's, I mean, it's a bit of an elephant in the room situation. And Justine, tell me if you're going to address it and then further down in the Project Tuku Iho discussion. But I think there is a risk that the government might intervene and say Tuku Iho isn't, central, and they may wish to adjust their funding. If we're not going to be discussing that risk then I would suggest that we move forward as fast as we can on deliverables under that project right now.
Into current years.
And I was to protect that investment. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. That's a very relevant point, and it's something that we've certainly been raising with the Kōrero Tuku Iho reference group, and how to curb the enthusiasm. There seems to be a lot of rhetoric around what something is and what something isn't. But you're right, it's a deliverable end that has to really be featured and highlighted, and pretty raw state when you're sitting in front of the minister explaining the virtues of our program, or of the Kaipara Moana remediation program, and it is really the deliverable data that's going to get us over the line. And I have every confidence that Justine will be couching a nice letter to point out to the minister how close we are to achieving some of those. And I think the other side of it, Jack, is I got a sense that she was on one path and we've been on another. Like, her perceptions of what this program was trying to achieve was a little bit different, and perhaps what someone who's been raised in the deep south may, the idea of mountains to the hills, or headwaters of the rivers to the Tasman seas, a slightly different one to what we hold. And but Justine will talk more about that. Kia ora.
Thank you.
Point noted, Jack. Thank you very much. And pass to you, John Blackwell.
Just a couple of points. Interested in what you just said. But I just see the today's hui, you've got, you can talk about senior officers in a meeting with the minister, be confirmed. So I don't know if you've got any further with that. And the other point was the 20th of October hui. I'm not sure what the risk, what's the risk there? Draft annual report. You've got risk in the benefit workshop.
May I respond through the chair to that?
Yep,
It's a great question.
Sorry.
Thank you. Yes, look, great points. We will talk more about the meeting with ministers, plural, and senior officials in Wellington. They were a really great set of meetings, and I've come away very comforted that all parties understand the importance and the value of the work we do, and we've been able to justify and demonstrate our delivery in multiple dimensions. We are very well aligned to government interests and delivery. I will talk more about that later. Of course, it is always the prerogative of the Crown. Every year it has been so far to decide what to invest in through KMR as the primary funder. It's why the work plan is so detailed and is why it is so complex. And for our new members, I'll talk you through that on the next paper. Coming into risk, we always run a session once a year with the Joint Committee members to just evaluate whether the risks we are managing as an initiative, as a program, are up to date. It's an online meeting, so we'll use the breakout rooms under the Teams function for those who've used that before. It will be a good session because we've got changes in the operating environment. So freshwater farm plans, I understand, due for announcement soon, that will materially change KMR and our potential to our work program. I'll talk more about that in the next paper. We were always designed to work under freshwater farm plans. Those have been delayed for various reasons. They're now coming, very imminent for announcement. So as the operating world changes, our risks and opportunities do too. And I should probably have called that workshop risk/opportunity because, as I mentioned in our last tui, I am feeling the best about KMR and our work than I have over the last 3.25 years. We are really well positioned to take advantage of many opportunities. So it really is to bring everyone up to date. We all see different parts of the world in our communities. I think Tracy mentioned that earlier. We will bring different perspectives from around the table to understand those risks and opportunities. So I don't want to make that too negative a conversation. It's really about updating ourselves and sharing what we see in the worlds around us, both risk and opportunity. Kia ora.
Thanks, Justine.
Thank you.
Just to back up Tammy's point about the minister being from the South Island. I used to chair the Beef Council, so that was the Harbour Bridge North, all of Northland. And we used to back the Kaikuya Action Group because that was a real issue that our farmers wanted to deal with, was Kaikuya. And the Southern boys didn't know what Kaikuya was and didn't support us at all. And this is just showing the difference between the North and the South. We have quite different environments, and we must remember that. And if you get the minister up here, those sort of people, we need to point it out. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you, John. We must keep that in mind. We did invite her to come north and take a look at this majestic piece of geography, and we'll certainly be looking for a Kaikuya trial farm to show her and introduce her to Kaikuya. Kia ora. Okay, any further matters on the work plan, please? And the local government elections are not going to sort of offer any challenges for any of this, is it? Like this period, in end of the year period?
May I commentate on that, Tammy? You've raised a very important point. We've talked about this at the Joint Committee previously, but just for the benefit of those listening to the live stream and or our new members, we will be affected by the local government elections this year. It is why the 20 October hui is online. We have to proceed irrespective of quorum because the draft annual report must be submitted to the Crown irrespective of that. It's a endorsement for the annual report to go to the Crown. The decision entity, if you like, is the Crown. We also need to get ourselves across a number of other matters that are important for KMR. We will reconcile from a formal approvals point of view in the 17th of November hui to make sure we are tidy for it procedurally. And we know that Auckland Council has a two-stage process for reconfirmation of any new committee members to this subcommittee, a joint committee, and therefore we'll just have to work with the timeframes and changes in governorship, if you like, for KMR as they arise. The one aspect of this work plan I would say will be more tentative is the planned stakeholder event at the end of the year. That's in November. We have not managed to run any of those. We've had it on the agenda for 2 years now. It reflects a busyness of both our governors and our Kaipara Maurikura team. I would like to be able to do that this year if time and energy allows, but you'll see we have some optional aspects and some TBC arrangements in that work plan to reflect that is subject to time and energy and I guess an appetite, and we can discuss that closer to the time whether that event eventuates. Kia ora.
Kia ora. There's no further discussions on the Joint Committee work plan or indicative board work plan. Moving to the next agenda item, please.
Thank you. I'm happy to take the draft annual work plan. I have some introductory comments. which are, I guess, important for us all, but also for our new members. The first is I just want to acknowledge Galilee Miles, our po tohu, who did all the work for this annual work plan, but who cannot be here today because she is on parental leave. In fact, we have a bunch of Kaipara Maurikura staff on parental leave at the minute, which means we're a little bit short-handed for now, and some on leave too as we come into our winter planting season. So unfortunately you have me today, and we also have Emma Doré, whom the Joint Committee met at our previous week, who is our business manager, our new business manager. So today we will do our best to answer any questions on the content, but we may need to get back to you separately or offline if we are unable to answer anything today. Thank you for your patience. The second aspect that I wanted to call out is, as always, the decision maker on the annual work plan, I mentioned this earlier, is the Ministry for the Environment. Now, in our previous years, we have had no changes to the draft annual work plan submitted to the Crown for review. And that is testament, I think, to the excellent work by Galilee and team. However, this year we are expecting some changes, and it speaks to our earlier conversation that we've just had an introduction to, relating to the fact that our operating environment is changing. So with the advent of freshwater farm plans, for example, and following discussions with senior officials, both in the Auckland region recently, and also with in Wellington with the Crown. In our recent meeting with ministers, we are expecting to have more dialogue this year with the Crown, and this annual work plan may change. So we are open-minded to that. We've been working to this type of arrangement for some time. It's worked really well for us. It's allowed exceptional delivery to the point that we're, in the running for the Global Earthshot Prize. However, with a significant change in the policy environment, it is timely, I think, to sit down with the Crown and to discuss a couple of things, whether any of our work plan arrangements need to expand or modify based on changes in the operating environment, particularly the policy one. So we've talked about freshwater farm plans. Also to think about whether our KPIs as a program need to change. And the reason I say that is because, just to give you a flavour of the conversations we are likely to have. So our primary key performance indicator of success to date has been the number of new landowners or groups that KMR can recruit and support through our project investments. So that's new landowners and groups. With just one shy of 900 landowners and groups working in some way with KMR as of the 31st of March, we are in a position where we are expecting to support current landowners and groups to take even greater action year on year through our support, So we also, and you will have seen this at our last hui, we are starting to work into impact measures. So our activities and outputs are starting to have a different, make a difference, make some positive change that we can measure in terms of areas of rivers and streams protected, wetlands protected, the area of regenerating native bush or remnant forest protected. Those are more important metrics going forward, and they haven't been captured or reflected to date. So the Crown has asked us in our workshop recently whether we can start doing some work about KPIs and also our intervention logic. What are the intermediate outcomes and impacts that we'll be heading towards as a 10-year initiative, so that the Crown and other co-investors, both councils and increasingly our third-party investors, have confidence that we are working towards agreed impacts and outcomes in the world. So those are things that we have, conversations that we will have as part of our submission of the annual work plan to the Crown. And I'm not sure if Celia, at the end of this conversation, whether you might want to add anything around the timeframes for that. But generally speaking, I would expect us to have got the draft annual work plan finalised ahead of the new year starting on 1 July, but perhaps this year not significantly in advance of that timeframe. So that's just something to note. And the fourth point I would like to, before I invite any additional comment from the Crown, the fourth point I'd like to make is as always, we are finishing our financial year right bang smack in the middle of winter planting. 30 June is our end of current financial year. As always, every year, this draft work plan will change because any activities that have been contracted and paid out will sit in the current financial year, and any activities that have been contracted, maybe even completed but not yet expensed, will carry over into this annual work plan, the one in front of you. All of the KPI activities that associate with those contracted but not expensed activities will carry over with it, as will the dollars that we already have in the current financial year. So that will mean a significant and audited reconciliation of the work plan before it can be finalised. This is in line with previous years' activities. It is quite a complicated work plan we have. We appreciate that the financials are complex, including in respect of the co-funding and other activities. So I just wanted to point that out to others as a reminder for our older in the tooth, longer in the tooth Joint Committee members, but also particularly for our new committee members. So what is in front of you is our best view at the current time of the work that will be both carried over and newly undertaken in the financial year that starts on 1 July, with our current view of the activities that will be supported and our current view of the key performance indicators that we were working to. So I might just stop there, though, and just see if there's any specific questions on the paper. Thank you very much.
Kia ora. Kia ora, John.
It's probably the fact that there's no monitoring in this, and I gather that's because we contract with central government specifically doesn't allow that. And I'm thinking as a farmer that we rely on science a lot. Seeing is believing, but science supports a lot of it. And maybe there's a way of funding that. I was talking to Jono, our CEO of Northern Regional Council, about it. I know Jack's been on this and Amy as well. It seems a shame that we can't get some monitoring, particularly on a catchment that is a single catchment for a farm that's going to start doing work with KMR. It might be 5 years before we got any results worth having, but I just feel if you got good results coming out of that, it would support us in the future. And maybe an Auckland Council and Kaipara could, Northern Regional Council could work together to possibly have one of these catchments.
Good point, John. Worth considering. Thank you. Michelle?
Thanks, Tame. I just had a query in regards to the afforestation term that was used. And firstly, look, a great thorough plan, and you got such a wide coverage in here, so, incredibly well done. My query on page 7 of the report, which is 20 of the agenda pack, and also on page 12 and 35 of the agenda, there's reference there about afforestation of our highly erodible areas, hill areas. And I just wanted to ask if that included pine forest. I know I can't recall the exact outcome of our discussion months ago about the potential for pine forest use.
Kia ora, through the chair, may I respond to that point? For both points.
Yes, by all means.
Kia ora, Tame. So first of all, we do not invest in pine, full stop, end of story, nor any wilding exotics. In fact, we are very careful in a very small set of selected exotic species that, for example, will support both sediment reduction activities demonstrated to reduce sedimentation from the land, including low impacts while harvesting. We often do exotics that go into natives, so mixed planting regimes. They are an effective tool for landowners, particularly farmers, to convert very, very steep eroding hillsides into native bush, but while retaining some revenue abilities as that happens. So that's why we have supported that as a program from last winter. We don't get a lot of demand, to be honest, for exotics. It's something that's quite specific. We also pay a very small proportion of the overall costs for exotics by comparison to natives. That may be why we have less uptake of that option among our hill country treatments that we support in KMR. So that's an easy one to cover off. If I may move back to John's question, they're very valid questions. So Auckland Council and Northern Regional Council have the responsibility for environmental monitoring under legislation. It is the reason why KMR, under current arrangements, is prohibited from spending any money at all on environmental monitoring. Both councils undertake state of environment monitoring, which includes monitoring freshwaters and the coastal marine environment in Kaipara, Moana for sedimentation. And we recently hosted Ministry for the Environment senior officials. Both councils presented on their current monitoring arrangements to the Crown. And there will be, I understand, some conversations between the Ministry for the Environment and both councils about whether or not there is an opportunity to demonstrate more in respect of how the KMR investment is supporting widespread activities to reduce sedimentation flowing down those major river systems and into the Moana itself. So that is a conversation the Crown will have directly with councils who are co-funding. There is an agreement, of course, between Crown and councils and an expectation that there will be some monitoring of the work that KMR undertakes with everyone's support. So I know that those conversations are in train. Both councils did a really good job explaining the activities. There's probably more than the Crown had understood. And in fact, Northern Regional Council is undertaking monitoring as we speak. So some of those results will be available, I understand, in July and August. Either way, John is absolutely correct that understanding the impacts of KMR will take time, and that is because sediment is a long-term contaminant in the environment, and typically you don't need to monitor particularly frequently for some aspects of sedimentation. We know that Auckland Council is using some quite smart technologies in the freshwater systems to perhaps monitor a little bit more frequently at what's peak flows to understand suspended sediments within the waterways. And so the conversation with the Crown at the minute, and which will no doubt correlate or be undertaken at the same time as the annual work plan discussions with the Crown, will be how are councils best to support. That said, there is an appetite from ministers, and we did discuss that in Wellington, for some of these smaller, localised, very bespoke, on-farm in particular, potential monitoring opportunities. A small number, the Crown was not talking, ministers were not talking about a massive number. We will have those conversations as part of the annual work plan. It is not intended that KMR replace or substitute the statutory requirements of councils. That was made very clear at both senior officials level and also by ministers. That said, as John has indicated, there are some opportunities where a farm system or a particular piece of land correlates to one of our 92,000 microcatchments in the Kaipara Moana catchment to be able to demonstrate perhaps earlier than otherwise would be the case that what we do in KMR and what landowners and groups undertake with our support does make a difference from freshwater and or coastal marine water quality. Thank you.
Thank you, Justine. Michelle?
Oh, kia ora, thanks. Just to follow up to the question about the pine, it was mainly because, anecdotally, I guess there's some observations about how effective pine or ineffective they were in holding some of the high erodible areas. And it sort of brings to mind that, is there any learnings from Gabrielle in response to the exotic species that either responded well or didn't, and if we're able to incorporate that in our decision making as well, considering that forefront is the reduction of sedimentation. If there's landslip, then that's counterproductive to that.
Good. Thank you, Michelle. Look, I think ideal position is for KMR to retain an objective one, an objective position that's got to have some connection to the locality of these sites relative to the river systems that they run into. You only have to drive down onto the Dill property in the Kaipara Hills there, and that's post-Gabriel, and no amount of, harakeke or whatever's going to save that hillside.
Yeah.
So, we need the flexibility and objectivity to say there are some exotics that perhaps are not in the radiata sort of category, or the pinus category, or the eucalyptus, and definitely not in the weed problem driving through Murray's Road there. Somebody had a crazy idea about creating printing paper out of these acacia poplars, and they've left nothing but a bloody headache. So we should retain an objective position, and I think the points made, Michelle, are well noted, and the Dill family, I think, are a living testament to what could possibly be a result of having this objective position.
Yes, and I guess, for the public perception is that people might look at KMR as being just about native planting only, and forgetting, like you continually drum home, is that actually the purpose is the reduction of sediment. And so what is the best way of that? And I guess that's what I was kind of highlighting, is that, I guess the messaging might need to be a bit stronger as to what that, the correlation between the decisions. Yeah.
And I think that messaging has to target the landowner. I think the public are going to be like, what's Donald Trump doing today? We're not in the position to compete with that. But just moving on, and point taken, that we need to drive that a little clearer and retaining an objective position. Tracy?
Kia ora. Thanks very much for the work plan. And also congratulations on almost getting to 900 landowners. Just my couple of questions actually relate to that. Do we know what our total landowners are, the numbers? And also, what's the spread of those 900 across the wider the whole Kaipara region? That's kind of my interest at the moment.
Yeah, I'm sure there's data in detail that can show you that, Tracy, and pretty much need that with the Kaipara Māori could attempt to get that information to you. But Justine, you had a response?
Kia ora. Yes, we're very happy to take you through all the scientific information and data sets that we work off as part of our induction. But yes, generally speaking, we are estimated 1,500 pastoral landowners with properties over 20 hectares. So we are doing well in terms of reaching those landowners. Of course, there are a number of groups, community, hapu, marae, other whānau groups, many different types of catchment community groups that work in smaller geographies, smaller land areas, but are still undertaking relatively important projects, to Michelle's point, that do reduce sedimentation, particularly near or on waterways and wetlands and the coastal margins. So I can take you through all the information we have. We have good information on that, and we are targeting particular aspects of that. So kia ora, we deal with that in the induction.
Kia ora, thank you.
Tracy, just before moving off that, note early, we don't run race-based data. Just in case it has come up on 2 occasions, but that's not our business. We're concerned about landowners and their ability to make decisions around reducing sediment on their properties. Hainamana mai, Māori mai, Kaipara uri mai. No. That's how we want to sort of keep it. But a good question, and sorry, Jack.
Kia ora, thank you. This is all good stuff, guys. A good report and a very, very good plan. I have one little question. Strategy and opportunities. I can't remember what page it's on. 33. ongoing development of opportunities with third parties, and we've set ourselves the KPI of establishing one new partnership. I get it's only 25,000. We're not painting ourselves into a corner there, are we, Justine? Are we confident we can get one more funding partner in this next 12 months?
Yes. We have under development. They can take time to land, which is why our key performance indicator is conservative. But we do have, as the Horticulture NZ Kumara sector relationship was our partnership that we landed for this current year. We've had others as well, but that's material. And we are also looking for potentially supporting others in the horticultural sector as well. So those are real dialogues. But Earthshot, of course, is a third-party co-funder. If we are lucky enough to win that is a very significant amount of co-investment from third parties. And there are others that I can't mention because of non-disclosure agreements or similar. But we also will see with some of the changes in the operating environment, there is more opportunity for co-funders, and I can't get into the detail of that yet, but I am confident that we will secure that. We don't take much money, it's time, which is also quite scarce in Kaipara Maurikura, but it's usually time to land those rather than actual money. The reason the budget line includes some funding under that is because in case we need to get expert third-party consultancy advice to support our decision-making collectively.
Thank you, Justine. It made it sound like a patsy question. You thought the answer was so fulsome, but I assure you it wasn't a patsy question. I was genuinely interested, but it looks like you got that well covered. Thank you.
Just make another couple of points around that. I think a big part of this strategy and opportunities is in the development of it. You have a situation at the top end of the Awarua catchment, feeding into the junction at the Twin Bridges into Maikai. You have the Spencer Family Trust, but their pastoral operations is not branded Spencer Family Trust. I think it's Mid-Northland Farms or something. But they're an offshoot of the Spencer Family Trust, and some of their philanthropic objectives I'm sure would be sort of quite closely aligned with what KMR is trying to achieve in terms of waterways and water quality and the ecology and so on. But they've got a KMR program running now. It's quite an extensive area. I think amongst their 5 or 6 dairy platforms, they're milking something like 7,000 cows. And yet the head of the relationship, if you like, or the head of the entity organisation is not directly involved with that day-to-day decision making. And I think this is part of the exploration of opportunities and what comes and what could happen, given that downstream from that huge operation is another large land block run by the with former Māori Affairs Land and Survey venture on behalf of a big group of owners up there in Awarua. And I think that the opportunity to explore those third-party options do take time. When they do work, wow, it makes a big difference. But thank you, Jack. And moving to John Blackwell.
Yes, so with governance, you don't want any surprises, and Tammy and I have probably been through one of the driest summers we've seen for quite some time. Bit concerned about the plantings of last year, the survival rate. Do we monitor backwards? Like, do you go back 2 years? After 2 years, I expect all trees would survive unless there was someone ate them or cut them down. So, yeah, just a question there. Thank you.
Through the chair, I'm happy to talk to that. So yes, we do monitor it 2 years post-planting and 5 years, but also we do check it depending on the species at 6 weeks, 6 months, in 12 months, and also if one particular co-funder requires the yearly check. So the field advisors who do work with landowners and groups actually are quite active around monitoring planting. And you're right, you're absolutely right. I'm worried about winter planting this current winter 2025 because of the impacts of drought, but unclear whether the deluge we've just had collectively will be enough to give confidence for people to plant. But typically we haven't seen any die-offs of current activities yet under current monitoring arrangements. Now that may change, so we will keep an eye on, and our field advisors who will be out there with our nearly 900 landowners and groups trying to sign them up for more works this winter in particular. We'll keep an eye on existing or previously planted areas too. So as part of the on-farm or on-land, on the whenua visit check, they will also look at previous locations or previous project works. But a very good question. We do need to keep an eye on that at the minute. Thank you.
Sorry, Michelle, my fault. Do you have a point, Michelle?
Yes, sorry, I didn't. It was just something that with the discussions it brought to mind about opportunities and things going forward as well. Something else that's, a big long work in progress kind of sort of project is the shoreline adaptation plans through Auckland Council. With the potential for water water level changes and what have you, and those effects on the shoreline. So there could be further opportunities for whatever happens to that land. And also we've had the buyout of a number of private properties that were affected by Gabrielle and the storm. So the category 3 properties, that there's decisions being made on the use of that land through council eventually. So it's just another potential opportunity for areas that might be eligible for planting or whatever. Yeah.
Thank you. All right. If there are no more comments on the draft annual work plan, want to echo the sentiments of the Joint Committee, Justine, to Kaipara Māori Kura and all those responsible for pulling this together. Very comprehensive detail indeed, and a pleasure to read, actually, even without the race-based data. That wasn't intended to be disrespectful to anybody, by the way. I'm looking at the recommendations. There are 9 of them, and rather than read the whole 9, number 1 is to receive the draft annual work plan, and there is another one at number 8, to agree to delegate the Joint Committee and Deputy Chair, the Chair and Deputy Chair, to approve the final draft. And then there's another one at number 6, to approve for submission the draft work plan to MFE, and then the other 6 for the Joint Committee to note. So all in all, there are 9 recommendations. You have them there, and I'll take them as being read. Can I have someone move the whole 9 recommendations, please? Tēnā koe, Jack. Thank you. Do you have a seconder?
Happy to second it, John.
Oh, kia ora, Tracy.
Okay.
Oh,
Thank you.
did I get that right? Okay. All those in favour, please say aye.
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 Any objections? Any abstentions? Thank you very much. Job well done. Next agenda item is 6.2, 6.3.
Actually, it's a presentation from our Kororo Tuku Iho project team. Before at 12 o'clock, we will call in Doc online to talk through the document agreement. So we've got our presentation now. Yeah.
All right, moving to presentation mode.
Does that come up, Justine?
Yes, but you might just bring it on into the other mode. Yes, that's the one. Great.
Ke konea Victoria,
Yeah,
Alyssa,
I
kia ora koutou. These are moving really slow. Kia ora koutou. We're just here to give a quick project delivery update on the Kōrero Tukuiho project. So Victoria, our lead from Environs Online, will speak shortly, and Alyssa, who is leading our koutou Pātaka Kai project. So just to recap on the kind of key updates that we presented to the last JC hui. So we've got one case study in delivery, which Alyssa will talk to after the first few slides. We've called for some EOIs. We have received 2, which we are currently working through with the wider project team. We did have a planned reference rōpū hui in March where we were going to look through a few of the details around the criteria, but we've delayed that. So we'll do that at our April hui. And right now we're doing a bit of a deep dive into the 2 EOIs that were received so that we can get on and make some recommendations and support their recommendation to the reference rōpū and the JC. Then we've just got a target date of May to get them endorsed by the reference rōpū and July to get them approved by the JC. So we just wanted to touch on some of the engagements we've been doing as part of a wider project delivery. So we have we supported the Te Karanganui commemoration that was held back in March. Tame and Victoria played a key role in the delivery. And I guess we just wanted to note that as part of a live and real example of the purpose of Kōrero Tukuiho. So at the actual battle site, there is several intermittent and permanent awa that flow from where the general area of the battle happened. And there's one KMR planting that I know of. There might be others, but there is one specific planting there that is just an extra piece of information where the field advisor could have looked at this significant site and said, yep, kia tūpato, we might come across other heritage sites, or you never know what could have come up as a result of that particular site relating to the battle. So that's kind of a nice, it's not nice, but it's an exemplary site where it could add value to KMR's SRPs and some of the mahi that the field advisors are going to do. I did note a colleague of mine was part of that planting, and I understand that Vic and the team were there to make sure whakawātea the area for the planting. So that's really good outcome for KMR, I thought. There's been initial discussions with some of the whānau and land blocks around the Oti Marae. So Trace, kia ora, may want to engage at a later stage on those, and also with the whānau and the Te Horo blocks. So those that are familiar with the whānau and the upper catchment, just initial kōrero right now to see what, if any, support or engagement they might want to take further with KMR. Particularly on Kōrero Tukuiho and also the opportunity around whenua whānau. And yeah, we're just tracking towards a July joint committee recommendation. And I just thought, I'm sure everyone has seen some of the media around Te Karanganui, so those were just cool photos that I wanted to show. And I just wanted to hand this next part over to Vic.
Yeah, kia ora koutou. So there was a Kōrero Tukuiho reference rōpū meeting held on the 19th of March. That was to solidify our steps for the whakatauira. We will be furthering the discussion at our next hui, which is coming up on the 14th. As you with sorting out processes, you always have scenarios that you haven't included. So we're just further developing those for the 14th of April meeting, which should have it finalised by then. We're working together to get there was 2 whakatauira case studies submitted, one from Puatahi and one from Tinapai. So we're just working together to further develop those and see what support that we can give for them to get the outcomes that they want and move that forward for them. And they are being presented to the reference rōpū on the 14th of April. From there, Marino and I will work to further develop with the support of the reference rōpū and get that finalised, ready for the next meeting, which I think is the 1st of July. We submit our first draft to the Joint Committee. One of the issues that we do have is that getting the engagement. So possibly it will look at seeing what kind of if maybe have another roadshow so that more people can be aware of the Kōrero Tuku Iho program. That's just a possible idea to be put at the table so that we can get more support. Hilda.
Kia ora koutou. My name is Elise Tehuna. I'm the kaiwhakahaere, the project lead for the Poto Pātaka Kai whakatauira case study. And I do whakapapa to Te Urioho through Waikaretu Marae. So I am from Waikaretu Marae. My whānau are the Kina whānau, for those that haven't met me on the call. So I'll go through some key updates and talk a little bit about our wānanga we just had this weekend. So as you can see in this slide, our data collection has been completed and compiled. We'll have ongoing work and interviews we'll need to do just due to the nature of the project and who is involved. One piece I would like to talk about is a Lakes 380 report around Lake Kahuparere. So that is one of the Poto lakes we are concentrating on. They did some sediment core testing. So some initial results they suggested from that was prior to human settlement, Lake Kahuparere was actually surrounded by lush native forests and abundant in podocarp, kauri, pahutakaua, maire and manuka. Post Māori settlement, they talked about that there was some vegetation clearance that had begun. This was highlighted by what they saw around some notice of charcoal fire and an increase in bracken fir and other associated landscape modification. And post-European settlement, the increase of forest clearance as well. So what that suggests is that this is common actually across all the 5 lakes that this project is looking at, and the effect actually on the wider catchment and tributaries and the Kaipara harbour and the sediment issues we have into the Kaipara harbour. So I'll talk about it more in the next slide, but we have had our first wānanga this weekend, so I'm happy to tick that off. And we'll start the first phase of our Māori plan, which was actually started at that wānanga as well, so keeping going on that work. And our first quarterly report has been completed. Could you go to the next slide, Marina, please? Okay. So our wānanga had around 23 attendees that went in and out due to their capacity or other hui and whānau things they had. And Charles Royal facilitated the wānanga along with myself and the rest of our Environs project team. We did in day one, it was a lot of brain work. So we were introducing them to the concept of Kaipara Moana remediation for those that weren't aware what the organisation was, where kōrero tuku iho fitted into that, and why there is an emphasis on sediment reduction and in relation to the lakes and the effects on the wider Kaipara catchment, and how that would be weaved throughout the case study. So we had some workshops, so setting a draft vision and outline for the first phase of the restoration plan. It was really great because participants brought up a lot around sediment issues, the type of sediment issues in the vision, like how they would actually find solutions for a vision around that, and also outlining some like short, medium, and long-term objectives and goals around how to reduce sediment in the Kaipara. In day two, we had our poto uri speaking about their work on the ground and their cultural history and around how that related to sediment reduction. So we had Colin French, some of you know of him, one of our poto uri. He talked about the history of Rototuna Lake. So why this is interesting in regards to sediment reduction is because Rototuna Lake was actually larger than it is now. So if you visually see it, it's quite small. But there is now a road, Poto Road, that goes straight through the middle of Rototuna Lake. The other side of the road, the lake has been completely drained. That was due to, like, as I said before, landscape modifications and actually sediment from the roadworks that went into that lake. So the effects of Rototuna Lake and the tributaries is actually having a direct effect on the Kaipara catchment and the Kaipara harbour in general. I also took some photos of some sediment traps around Rototuna Lake that have actually been established too. So there's actually some work going into that as well. Yeah, so that's all I had. If you had anything else to add. Cool. Oh yes, who did this? There's some photos from our wānanga yesterday. Thank you, whoever did that really fast. But this is some photo evidence. It was 2 beautiful days of wānanga time, and a lot of brain work on the first day, and then out at Rotokawa and Rototuna Lakes on the second day. So we were really lucky to have 2 beautiful days outside with a lot of people from actually different, like they weren't only poto uri, they were from different organisations or landowners or different people around the Kaipara catchment that came all the way to Waikaretu to be involved in our wānanga. So yes, I think it was a really great wānanga, and we got some really good feedback about how we can move forward and build on this wānanga to keep developing the restoration plan and vision and making sure we're focused on sediment reduction, those issues, but how we can find solutions as well.
We also, in terms of our methodology as well, we also worked out some other methods that we need to do to be able to engage a broad voice as well. So we worked out that possibly needing to hold a rangatahi wānanga to hear their voices as well, so that it captures for intergenerationally and what the younger rangatahi would be interested in hearing for tomorrow as well. So possibly looking at doing that as well for rangatahi so that they can have their voice included as well. Matua Tame.
Hi. Got any idea of how many of those people that were at the wānanga were actually landowners and could give you a decision about what happens on their land blocks?
No.
Okay.
None of them were, but we are engaging with them individually. at an individual level. We found that works better for them. Quite broad ideas, very broad personalities. So we found it easier for us to engage with them on an individual level.
Okay, I know an island sort of east of Christchurch called Chatham Islands. Might want to have the meeting there. No, I don't mean that to be cheeky, but look, the next question was in the quest to build a profile of understanding of, you know, what's in your backyard. How about the Poto school? Are they engaged, or is there any moves to connect with them through their local curriculum development or anything like that?
Yes, there is matua tame, so that was brought up at our hui as well, like our connection with Poto School. They're also an Environ school, which I didn't know, so that was really good to know as well.
Yep.
So, yep, what Vic said about like the rangatahi wānanga, getting them involved in that too.
Yeah, I think the opportunity to consolidate that kind of approach, Victoria,
Yeah.
and Elise is really the kind of music score sheet that will appeal to, you know, because it's fine for those of people who come from Poto, but they're going to go back to their day jobs in their quarter acre section in Remuera or wherever they live. And you know, those that at home meantime are juggling a whole lot of issues in the air. And
it also helps for engagement too, having the local school. So you engage the school, the parents will come as well, and the kids are real keen to be involved.
Yeah, the same goes. You know, I noted the tino pai part of the expressions of interest. There's been some really active stuff going on with the tino pai school, as small as it is, through the fishing competition, and KMR's had a big part to play in helping that school with a bit of sponsorship for their fundraising efforts, and then of course the plant out days they've had there. So yeah, these schools and, you know, what they're struggling with is a real part of the community effort.
Hi, John.
John, yeah, okay, yeah, so this is my area, I suppose. I live across the other side of the river. Both those schools I was lucky enough to attend and hand out the bronze award for virus schools. There's been a lot of work done at the lakes, and Chris Biddles and would be a great contact person. Some of the people have actually disappeared, passed on. But I don't think that's a huge area of sediment coming to the harbour, but the lakes are definitely worth picking up on. But I do wonder where our best buck is spent sometimes, and maybe monitoring might be useful for the likes of the Kaihu River, Tangwahine, Maunganui, and seeing which are the worst offenders. I suppose this is really an NRC question. But yeah, Poto lakes have always been high on the agenda. A lot of work's been done in the past. Never found out where half the water comes from. It goes in the sand and comes up in a different area. So, yep, they're the jewel in the crown for the Northland councils. Thank you.
NRC have done aquifer research, and so we're currently waiting for those reports to come. But they are saying that underneath the lakes, the water is heading towards the Kaipara Moana and bubbling up from the aquifers up into the Kaipara Moana.
Great stuff. Yeah.
Okay, Mike. Sorry, Mata.
Yeah, kia ora. I'm just trying to get an understanding, because I'm writing furiously, and again, I'm very new to this. Just the linking in of our whānau from the different marae there. So were there Parido reps and Waiahu? Was that something that I could go back to them and say, actually, if you want to be part of this korero, you need to follow this or see that?
We did reach out to the specific marae, so we did reach out to all different marae and let them know about, so we had an email back from Kapehu, and they said that they were already working on stuff for their marae, so they weren't quite interested at this time. Some of them we didn't get answers back from, so it could be that we didn't have the right contacts, or something went wrong there. But few of them came back and just said that they weren't interested at this time. But we have reached out to them.
Yeah, I think our marae would be really interested. So maybe later, so another time, we'll just work out whether those channels are the right ones and then get them involved.
I did have a talk to Uncle George and Auntie Rusty, but they're holding up the marae, so it's a bit busy.
Well, I think you'd probably want to be going to the committee, and then they do the call out. Alyssa and Shannon.
Yep. I had a call it all with them too.
Thank you.
But we can circle back.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. What's up, Tammy?
Yeah, I just really wanted to sort of say, big thank you for presenting the detail and the information. Keep up the good work. We've got a bit of a tight time frame today's meeting. But is there any closing comments you want to make around koutou tukuiho?
Ka pai matua Tamia. I just wanted to mention, because Jack referred me to Jackie Bird, so I am working alongside Jackie Bird now from NRC, which has been really great, and she's been awesome to show me where the data is, and she does a lot of work out at Poto Lakes as well already, so I'm looking forward to building a cool relationship with her as well, and looking forward to our next wānanga and keeping on going with our project. Kia ora.
Thank you. Victoria, do you have any closing comments?
No, kei te pai au.
Ka pai. Pea te koe, Marina.
Ka hore.
Alicia, just before you go, for the record, Rototuna, Rotokaua, what's the other 3 lakes, please?
Kanono, Kahupārere, and Humuhumu.
There you go. I hope that's all been captured, and we are talking about some significant bodies of water, and I think you're on the right path about how this water comes up in the bed of the Moana, Victoria. Just go down the front of Waikato there, out on below the Papakainga, and you'll see where the water supply that used to feed the marae is actually bubbling below the low water mark.
And that's exactly it. That's where they're coming from, is from the lakes.
All right. Oh, look, big thank you, and keep in touch, keep up the good work, and look forward to the meeting on the 14th of April. Kia ora.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Marina. Kia ora.
Bye, ta-ra.
Now, sorry, people, we've got a couple of minutes, and there was an important matter we wanted to discuss prior to engaging with Doc around, the whole thrust of it, I guess. Jack, I'll hand it over to you, or Justine.
I put Alex on hold to join until we're ready. I'll text him, so we won't get him joining until we're ready. So he's lined up for that. So just to relax, we've got the time we need. We have half an hour for this item. I doubt we'll need to use that for the conversation, but let's use the time around this table in private before we live stream private before we bring Doc in.
Okay, you hand it straight over to Jack.
Thank you, Tammy. Look, I just raised 8 little points of just a potential concern. I didn't say they were real, but potential concern. But Justine's pretty much answered all of them. My concerns are really about risk to our people, of course, in our programs. About, like, for instance, cultural sites. There's a chance that some of our folks would blunder onto cultural sites and not know it. But Justine's answered that.
Yes, we just to help the live stream, we actually look on Arch Site, which is the most up to date, maybe not complete, but the place where you go to check if there are any cultural sites of importance. But also we would hope that DOC knew about those. So as we liaise with them about our particular locations, we would also have that conversation and hope that DOC would let us know about any cultural sites that they were aware of that were not on Arch site. Yeah.
Yeah, I see you've got bi-monthly meetings between staff, so that's quite nice. What was my other couple of questions there? Who monitors? What kind of monitoring is done? What I worry about, like a year down the track, somebody raising a concern and us being in the gun. I guess all I can say is take lots of photographs. Because, you're working on land that isn't owned by anyone who's actually looking at your work all the time. And, we all know that DOC is completely stretched for resources, so that they may not be able to get out there and look at what we're doing.
Yes. Can I answer that one, Jack?
Sure.
Sorry, I'll just, as we go, because it just means that we can raise the issue. And so look, you're absolutely right. We would expect under this arrangement, the usual situation where our field advisor or kaitaki field advisor, our boots on ground, would work with the landowner or group who was undertaking the work on the DOC riparian margin to check, as we always do, right through the project, before project, as we're developing up the scope of it, right through the implementation, including at various points post-planting. And we would raise any concerns directly with landowner or group and also with DOC if we found any. And we're not going to say this is perfect. We do sometimes find things where there's plant survival issues. We've talked about that today. We can, if we catch them early enough, we can resolve them. So it is a high trust environment, but just to remind us all, we already support projects where landowners and groups take action on lands that they do not own themselves. This is the Whenua Whānui Fund, or community actions alongside on lots of different types of public lands or lands owned by others, as long as the landowner has permission. The Whenua Whānui Fund will support those activities, and we apply the same rigour to our projects and implementation and success monitoring 2, 5 years, etc., sometimes 12 months, definitely 6 months and 6 weeks post. So the same degree of rigour we would apply for DOC land. So that is an important aspect, and we would communicate as early as we can if there were any issues. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. That's fantastic. Great explanation. I guess DOC would agree with our policy about appropriateness of plant species to be included, because we're eco-sourcing, and I guess that would be aligned before we start. So I anticipate that would cause no problems. But it still leaves aside the issue of, exactly which plants are going where. Do they have a policy that we might contravene, or we basically just talking about very small marginal strips where the answer would be obvious?
Yeah, it's very small Zone A type planting. And just to remind everyone, and for those new members, we have a nursery specialist, Dave McDermott, who does all our species identification, planting spacing, and zone-related choices that would continue. Oh, hang on, we might just need Tame to mute. Yes, there he is, that's good. But yes, Dave is involved in all of our planting projects. He's an absolute legend to do that, and we would hope that we can work through prior to signing that DOC is comfortable with him making those choices in what is largely Zone A, potentially a little bit of Zone B planting. So all our rushes, sedges, all our planting is appropriate for the location on the landscape.
Thank you. I have no other questions. That's fantastic. Thank you, Justine.
No, but that's okay. And look, I think the points you've raised, Jack, for the record, I just want to say they're great questions, and I still have some questions before we go ahead and sign that, which is why I want some review processes around how it will work in practice. Kia ora.
How about Justine? Michelle, you had a couple of questions?
Yeah, I did. Thank you. And actually, it's already kind of been covered, which was about the plant species, and just reflecting on a discussion a while back with riparian planting and a slight adjustment to species to make sure we don't contribute to flooding issues with debris and things like that. So, the alignment, of what we're flexibly able to do if they differ to DOC. My other question was in regards to risk. I saw there, obviously, and this is not likely to happen, but obviously there's a 14 days, can get out of the agreement kind of thing if there's a breach. And just, I guess, considering the fact that Kmart do employ a lot of subcontractors, I guess we can kind of call it that way, is that sometimes your level of monitoring and things can be difficult if something does go wrong. And so I wanted to know, I'm sorry if I have missed this, but is there anything in the detail about if something like that happened, what happens to the tree stock? If we've committed to tree stock with nurseries and things, could there be possibly at least an agreement in there that DOC would purchase that for, the ones that were committed for their projects, and they might then have to find someone else to deliver them if they weren't sure that KMR was a safe way anymore. And this is worst case scenario, but is there something to protect us in that regard?
Yes, if I may, that's a really great question. So, just as a reminder, we always pre-purchase our native plants, and native plants are the only ones that are going in Zone A, Zone B, and near those riparian strips. So we always have a commitment. We can use them. The eco-districts, as you know, we have 9 in the catchment. We can use those, and we will use them somewhere elsewhere. So I don't think we'll come to that. My sense is we'll have plenty of time to rearrange and reschedule those same plants if things came to. This is our pre-purchase arrangement we have with our 19 accredited local nurseries, and we will always make it work every winter. Just to be clear though, and this is something your questions, perhaps Jack's questions too, are reminding me of, it's not a wholesale, we're about to go and plant these incredibly wonderful riparian strips all at once. We will wait, and we've probably got a very small number, 2 right now, and we may get in the 10s, perhaps 20s over time. But we are talking about a very small set of potential landowners who are adjacent to, or community groups, e.g. in some locations where they've been doing a little bit of planting on public lands already near waterways. We're not expecting this to cover the full waterfront, so to speak. These are likely to be the exception rather than the rule, but we would make available, of course, the scheme across the whole geography as shown in the maps. But because it is reliant on someone else being prepared to put up to 30% of the estimated project costs co-funding on the table to access the KMR support, it's not wholesale, if you like. I'm not expecting a large quantity of landowners or groups to take this away and do something with it. To come back to how we manage the risks around the subcontract, it's a good point. Lizette Rawson, who's presently away on leave, our operations manager, will be personally involved with every one of these likely to be low number of applications, so that she's managing them personally and having what I call management oversight because of that risk of our outsourcing model. You're exactly right. And I think with those 2 aspects together, the small number of likely landowners or groups who want to take accountability and action in these areas, and the fact that we've got senior level eyeballs on each of the individual projects, I think we will manage the risk okay. Yeah. But we will see. We'll need to test that. Yeah.
That's cool. I did have a final question too, which is kind of unrelated, but in a way of maybe opportunity, is that do we have similar agreements with council as well? I mean, there's a lot of public space, and there are groups that are donating time to be able to plant areas and things too. So
yes. I might invite in Fez, listening intently to our conversation, to give some examples of the public lands that we have worked on with various councils. We do it. It's quite rare, but if Ben's on the line and listening, he might jump in with that answer.
I am kind of partly aware of it, but I thought it might benefit other members as well to sort of raise this as a topic. Yeah, cheers.
There's a couple of projects being worked through by, I believe, Auckland Council Park. I don't know what I think they're park rangers, but I think they're park rangers, that's the term, but who have specific areas, who are working on projects in various areas. We've done a couple with WDC, including at the Hikarangi Sports Ground through the support of Trees That Count, and I believe there's 1 or 2 with the Kaipara, the Ho NZ one kind of cost us over in some of those areas because of how that works. So I wouldn't say there's an agreement at this level, but all the councils are well aware of, and whenever we've presented to them, it results in someone coming and saying, oh, yep, I've got a space we want to do something in, and it's done sort of at a project level piece of work, which is quite handy. because it allows us to sort of use the 1+1+1 conversation, like I was at the partnership forum with the biodiversity team, where they're speaking, saying we can bring something to the table, the council can bring something to the table, and the community brings something to the table, and it creates a great sort of three-way partnership in the smallest element. Were those examples you were thinking of, Justine?
Yes, thanks, Ben. And just there's a Northern Regional Parks group in Auckland Council that we've been working with. So far not managed to get anything across the line. But just to remind ourselves, Whenua Whānui Fund does apply for publicly owned lands, as well as various other types of lands administered by trusts in various ways, shapes and dimensions. So this blanket agreement, if you like, with DOC would just unlock a more time-effective way of doing the small number of projects we kind of do now. But I can see other hands up, so I will hand over back to Tame.
Kia ora, John Blackwell.
I'll just make it quick. I remember with wetlands and DOC was very supportive that all wetlands should be fenced off, and I suggested that they should fence theirs off as well, and they said New Zealand will be predator free by 2030, whatever the date was. The point I'm trying to make is that this land is probably, well, DOC is probably one of our biggest pig farmers in the north, and might be surpassed by forestry any day soon. But these plantings may well have to be fenced off. Okay, thank you.
Kia ora, John. Mike, Tana?
Kia ora. Just for my own understanding, so in the induction, this is this kind of represented in what you put together by way of summary of where who engages, and whether it's kind of council, landowner, Māori? Is that kind of like we get that out of the induction?
I'm happy to respond to Mike's question. Whenua Whānui Fund information covers the types of land under Whenua Whānui Fund. I'm happy to send you some perhaps more detailed information, but this arrangement, actually you've raised a very good point. Depending on the land type next door to this, we would not necessarily always apply Whenua Whānui Fund arrangements. We may apply landowner grant arrangements. So if it was and we often get that with catchment groups or community group activity, if there was a bog standard farm next door to the small riparian strip that was administered by DOC, and that farmer was interested in taking action, then we would have the landowner grant arrangements applying, and typically those landowners would already be working with KMR if they're interested in the land next door. If it was adjacent, if that riparian strip was adjacent to a Whenua Whānui Fund eligible strip of land, then we would apply that regime too. And there's various reasons for that, but I'm happy to fill you in a bit later, Mike, if that's helpful. Yeah.
Thank you. It's just kind of getting an understanding if there's an overall picture of how these two cross each other, or whether they're discrete, and understanding what the makeup is of those engagements. It's kind of helpful.
All right. Now, people, we've got just a bit over 15 minutes left before the clock times out, and somebody was talking about taking a break in between the 2 hours that we'd allocated. So I guess we have been tossing this ball around for a fair while, and I propose we move to hear what DOC have got to say for themselves, and just add my 10 cents worth to publicly owned land. It would be a relief to those of us that have been watching the growth of invasive weeds and everything else on publicly owned land in the name of a road reserve right next to the Mangakahia River, and find that no one wants to sort of step up and say we take responsibility for it. I did propose that maybe we should put it into private ownership, and we'll see the abatement notices start to turn up in the private landowners' letterbox. But that hasn't fallen on deaf ears. So hopefully I know we're dealing with Alex Rogers, and the Kaipara Moana catchment spreads across 2 conservancy areas. and I'd like to keep our options open about the entire catchment, and wherever possible for the members not to lose sight of that as we hand it back to Justine. Or kia ora, Michelle.
Yeah, sorry, me again with another late thought. I was also just thinking with the public works kind of scenarios, we have obviously the Tihana to Walkwith motorway extension, which will be going through private land and potentially creating a sediment risk with the works, etc. So, which they'll obviously will have to manage. So, but is there engagement that happens with NZTA and things through KMR with projects like that could be, contributing to sedimentation and the reversal of them actually helping out with prevention?
So just the short version, because we have Alex Rogers here, and I want to make sure we've got time for him, but we cannot involve ourselves in resource consent matters. These are always resource consent matters around remediation of roading. So no, we don't typically have that relationship or engage in that. It tends to imply a subsidy in a way that's inappropriate for a resource consent driven set of activities. But welcome to Alex, and thank you very much for coming in with us today. I know we've only got 15 minutes of your precious time, so we've had some discussion around the table on what is proposed, but I think everyone can agree that this has taken a little while to get to the table, and obviously while we do want to extend this, we will trial it in the Auckland region, which is around a quarter of our Kaipara Moana catchment first. So are there any introductory remarks, Alex, you'd like to make, and perhaps introduce yourself to the Joint Committee? Thank you.
Kia ora, Justine. E mihi ane kia koutou katoa. Ko ai au, i te taho tōku papa, ko ai te uri o ngā mihi Ngāri Pākehā, i te tai tōkaro. I te taho o tōku mama, he uri o ngā tangata Ūropi. Ko ai te tūmoaki, i te papātapai o te rohi o Tāmaki Makaurau, ko Alex Rogers tōku ingoa. Kia ora everyone, I'm Alex. I'm the Regional Director for DOC, based in Tāmaki Makaurau. Lovely to see you, Tame, Justine, and all the members of the Kaipara Moana Remediation Authority. I was actually at the Kaipara this morning. So I was out there with Richard Nahi at a small little place called Glorit. And we were, so it was beautiful to be out there, but I was remarking to him that tara iti who all fledged on the east coast are now all in the Kaipara. And that connection to the Kaipara is very dear to our hearts here in Tāmaki. Just wanted to mihi to all the mana whenua of the Kaipara from both sides, from the north and the south, and also just to acknowledge the extraordinary work that you all do to whakapaipai, whakaora, to Kaipara Moana. So from my side, I think grateful to be at this moment with you, Justine, and with everybody else. Really excited by what this presents. For us, it's an amazing opportunity to do things at scale, and acknowledge that I guess the Auckland or the southern half is going to be the pilot or the test. It gives us a great opportunity to see how this rolls out and to iron out any things that crop up before the north, assumedly and hopefully joins to make it a whole. And at that time, we'll be able to do something, I guess, a bit more public and celebratory. But really glad on our side to be standing here today, ready to sign, ready to work alongside of you, and ready to see this move forward. So I guess I'll leave it there, Justine, but I'm happy to take any questions, and thanks again for having me with you today.
Thank you very much, Alex. Just one other final comment. We have had a little bit of discussion amongst the Joint Committee to make sure that we're really clear on arrangements, before we go ahead and sign that if you like, the standard operating procedures are really, really clear and there's enough senior level oversight of how things work, particularly for the first couple. So that's something that I'll take you offline and we can have a little look at, but certainly good levels of support and some nervousness that we need to be able to be clear about how we work together under the agreement. So that's, I think, in summary. But over to the Joint Committee for any other comments or thoughts or questions for Alex. See Amy's hand up.
Kia ora, I'll just jump in there. Kia ora, Alex, thank you for joining us, and thanks everybody for the prior discussion. That was useful just to kind of go through some of the, I guess, the detail that gives us confidence. My question, I'm not sure if it's for Alex or for you, Justine, but just wondering, I'm very supportive of this and do see it as a really good opportunity, and just curious how we will traverse the I guess rollout or upscaling into the north. What's the plan for how that will be managed, I guess, and do we have some indicative timeframes for when the conversation would come to the northern half? And I know Tame hates it when we talk about these meaningless boundaries, but we're doing it.
Alex, do you want to talk about the work that Sue's started on?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Amy. And then I'll leave for you, Justine, on the rest. So Sue, my counterpart in Taitokoro, is working hard on the iwi consultation front up there. That's the only remaining kind of process step, just to make sure that at a hapu level there's comfort. And as long as there is, then she'll be able to do what I'm doing now, essentially. And then we will be able to bring the whole catchment in from our side. So, Justine, I'm not sure if there's anything else you want to mention on that front.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. Look, I don't think we can put any timeframes on that. It will take as long as it takes. And I think, there is a requirement and a need to make sure that there's a well-communicated approach around what the relationship is proposed in terms of KMA's support for landowners and groups, and how that will roll out with support from Kaipara Moana remediation funding. So I wouldn't like to put a time frame on that, but Alex is absolutely right. Some of those conversations have started already and will continue, and we will both, Sue, myself and Alex too, we will be happy to report back on how the arrangements are working, and also whether there's any changes that are needed through the pilot process, so before we move into the north. So we will keep you actively informed of progress and timeframes. Kia ora.
Yeah, and Amy, just to assure you, Sue's working as fast as she can on that front. So I mean, she was actually hoping a few months ago that she might be here today too, but they just need a little bit more time. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Ka pai. And I guess just highlighting that from an NRC perspective, if there are, I know DOC has their own avenues and relationships, but just also, like we're all in this together. So if there are ways that NRC can support with relationships, or, there's places where we work more closely than others. And so just the door is open, I guess, for us to support that process, because it would be, really fantastic to have it across the whole catchment. Kia ora. Right. Thank you.
Not sure if Tame, who dropped out of the call, is back yet. I think I saw him come back in, but if he's still having trouble with internet, I can see Tracy has his hand up. So over to you, perhaps.
Kia ora, Alex. I'm the Ngā Maunga Whakahi rep for KMNR. Great to see this initiative happening and beginning in the south. I know that as part of our Ngā Maunga Whakahi settlement, we have a kawanata with DOC. We do have Malcolm Patterson now as our new CEO for Ngā Maunga Whakahi, and also Shona Oliver's going to be supporting in our space as well. I know she works closely as well as farm assessors, I think. So it'd be good to get a bit of a briefing as well with what we do bring up to speed the trustees and the operational team, and how we can support in any way.
And I know each other quite well. I was really pleased to hear of his appointment. I think that bodes really well, and be very happy to come along to any hui you're having and talk further.
Great, thanks.
I'm still not sure if we've Tame fully back online.
Yeah, hopefully that's been restored. But apologies for the dropout, Alex. Welcome and endorse the comments made by the members as they have addressed this question. And yeah, I don't really have too much more to add other than wishing you well with with these endeavours. We have expressed prior to you joining us that DOC represents a proportion of the public lands in the Kaipara Moana catchment. Sadly, they don't enjoy the same kind of compatibility about ease of getting to the landowner decision maker around what should happen on the riparian margins. And I guess hopefully the example that is worked out with Department of Conservation is something that'll assist across the entire catchment. If we can get this right, then I think we're well down that track, and there are a big number of eyes out there monitoring us, the same way as we're trying to monitor the sediment going into the water. There are a lot of people out there with, some of them are forensic in their outlooks, accountants, lawyers, social media commentators, the whole damn lot, mate. So good luck in these endeavours, and I'll leave it with Kaipara Mauri Kura to work out the operational bits, but really thank you for the opportunity, and good to hear that, we've got this far with this agreement thus far. Tēnā koe. Kia ora, Justine, I'll hand it back to you.
Kia ora, thanks very much, Alex, for coming along. I just want to acknowledge the work of the team. It has taken a little while to get us here, and I think we're in a really positive trajectory. So we'll take away the need to work together to make sure that we're really clear on how this is going to work, and also, have processes in place, conversations in place really, really early and regularly, so that if anything isn't 100% clear or ironed out properly, we'll make sure those wrinkles are addressed really early on. And then any learnings and insights will be adaptive to the application of this going forward, and we'll work, of course, closely with Sue in the Northern region. So thanks for everyone's good questions. I think Amy's got her hand up again. So you
Kia ora, I just don't think we've moved the recommendations. I was just checking. But I can't remember if we have, Lily.
Actually,
good point. We haven't.
I'm happy to be a mover of those three altogether. Thank you, Tame.
Thank you, Amy. And do we have a seconder?
Yes, yep. I'm happy to second that, Tame. Georgina.
Kia ora, Georgina. Moved by Amy, seconded by Georgina, that recommendation to item 6.2, recommendations 1, 2, and 3 be enacted. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against? Any abstentions? That's carried. Thank you, one and all. Thank you, Alex, and all the best with your endeavours. Tēnā koe.
Ngā mihi, good to see you all. Thank you.
Item 6.3, as we roll, sorry, 6.3, 6.4.
Thank you, everyone. That was a really great discussion. And now we're up to the best, always saved till last, the Potataki report. So with permission of the chair, I would like to very briefly just note our senior officials' workshops and meetings, provide a quick update on ministerial aspects. Oh, sorry, Tame? Apologies, I just thought I may have been, hopefully I'll just carry on unless we have someone else joining. Tame? No, that's okay, I'll carry on. So with the Potataki report, we just have our usual update on activities. I'll take you very briefly through that, and then I will end with the verbal aspects so we finish on time at 12:45. So the Earthshot Prize due diligence process is continuing to roll on. It's at the very life-unfriendly UK time of mostly around midnight, but we're working really well with the assessors in that process, and I'm feeling really positive about how we're going through into that assessment process. We've already been offered a lot of support and help by the Earthshot Prize supporters and partners. I can't go into the details of that, but irrespective of whether we go through to the global finalist pool, which we'll know about in August or so, KMR is already receiving support from that process. It's support in the way of expert advice. And I am already finding it a really positive experience around, positioning KMR beyond 2031 even, so that longer term strategic positioning is going really, really well. I can, with permission, update you on that the next time we meet. All of the work that we do with Earthshot is under quite strict arrangements around confidentiality for now. But it's going well. I'm really happy with how we're going, and I certainly think the assessment process has sharpened our thinking on strategic opportunities. We also are very pleased to see, and I will send around the link now that is finally live, we have a cost-benefit analysis now live, which has been undertaken with independent support, peer-reviewed by the Treasury from the Secretariat for the Jobs for Nature initiative. And I'm really pleased to let you know that cost-benefit analysis shows that there's nearly a $4 return to the Crown for every dollar invested in KMR. And that the primary benefits are actually economic. And I must admit, not being an economist, I was a bit surprised about that. But then when you consider all of the investment types that KMR makes and the value of the snapper fisheries and other economic well-beings that we sustain and protect through our investments, then I guess it's not surprising. So that has only just become live in the last couple of days, and I will send around the link so those can read it. There is a very pointy-headed technical report and a summary one, but for those of you who are economists perhaps on our panel, you may like to have a look at that detail. The change in return, you may remember there was a draft out there earlier. The change in return is due to using a revised discount rate that Treasury published. So that's again something that the economists will understand. Communications and media. Ben, would you like just to call out some recent communications events and engagement that we've done, of course, with a view to ensuring landowners and groups are brought on board into the KMR kaupapa?
Yeah, I guess sort of the one we've been at a lot of AMP shows, field days, talking to people. A lot of the time was just people coming up saying, I'm already part of the program, but keep it up. Great work, which is always welcome. Recent Northland Balanced Farm Environment Awards, the Northland Regional winners, Rob and Mandy Pye, who may have seen visited with KMR work, were great supporters, which got us a great couple of mentions on the country, RNZ, More FM, acknowledging the work that we've helped with doing upgrades and work to their farm, which is fantastic, and a couple of great on-farm projects through our Navigator project leaders, one out at Waiotira and at the Partnership Forum at Te Aroha Pa, which is great to get out into the community, which has been wonderful.
Thanks for that. And just to close off the written content, I just want to talk about that winter 2025 headwinds. We've mentioned it today, but it's a little unclear yet whether the rain that we have had will break the drought sufficiently to allow what I call the confidence or headspace for our many landowners and groups to commit to winter planting this year. We're obviously in April, but we are already seeing some uplifts in the planting projects for the year. But we're also very aware that there are some counter wins, if you like, particularly some uncertainties relating to the New Zealand emission trading scheme. In respect of exotics, we don't have a lot of those, but where people are planting them, they typically want support from the NZETS. So there's just some policy uncertainties there that are sort of running counter to what was, in a bigger planting year this winter than last. So we'll keep you posted as governors on how that is going. And just to finish off our kaupapa today, a really great set of meetings. I just want to shout out to the Māori agribusiness team in the Ministry for Primary Industries who came a long way to come and meet with us and workshop in Auckland region. Visit 4 of our landowners and groups in the field. It was a whistle-stop tour just to get a sense of the work that we do support through KMR. It was a really good set of discussions. MPI is moving quite quickly into some on-farm advisory support services. They're already in that space. They can see some really fantastic crossover with KMR's Field Advisor and through the Kaipara Maurikura, the work we're doing. So the next step is to sit down in a proper, perhaps more targeted workshop to understand the opportunities to collaborate and support our actually very common goals and objectives. We also met in workshop with the senior level officials from the Ministry for the Environment, our primary funder. They're a really good set of conversations, and again, really grateful for people giving up so much time to understand our work, and particularly at this time of change in the policy environment in which we all operate. So central government policy rather than regional policy. Again, that's culminated in 2 ministerial meetings and meetings with ministerial officers, all of which were really positive. A shout out to my staff who prepared us so well for what was quite a short turnaround time for preparation. One of the points of great ministerial interest was our digital tool, Mātai Onukura, and what that can do in a freshwater farm plan environment. And just want to shout out to Duncan Curvell for actually doing a mock set of project activities for Grant McCullum, the Northland MP. Obviously, we take privacy very seriously, but we had permission from Grant to mock up something on his farm that we could show ministers. And actually, he's got a lot of work to do now that we've mocked up a project plan or 3 for him to undertake on his farm. Actually, he has said he would quite like to see that, just as a bit of a joke. But look, in the bigger scheme of things, I think we have both. This is not being done to. KMR is also very aware we've scaled up from startup. We're in program maturity. The world's moving around us. There are heaps of opportunities to amplify the value and impact that we undertake right now. And so from my perspective, we're absolutely right and ready now to have those conversations around where next. And we've got some really clear ideas, some of which we popped on the table to our February hui down in Warkworth. So a lot of the strategic intent we've been actually waiting for some time for the world to catch up to KMR. And we're in that frame now. So with the conversation starter that is our draft annual work plan, I am expecting to have some pretty good and future-facing conversations with our Crown partners, plural, and certainly came away very supported, feeling very supported by ministers after those meetings. And just want to acknowledge Andrew Hogarth's leadership in the farm planning space and his understanding of KMR. He's also visited us not so long ago and visited one of our landowners who is working with us. So I feel whatever decisions the Crown makes in respect of our work plan going forward, that they are well informed and can see the opportunities from having an umbrella group or a backbone catchment group like KMR to take things forward. And we've been talking a lot recently about how it's important to remember KMR is not just the largest harbour restoration initiative in New Zealand. We are actually one of the largest catchment groups as well. And it's particularly important that there is a backbone or umbrella group like KMR in areas such as the Kaipara Moana catchment, where actually it's been quite hard for whatever reason to get these smaller little catchment groups up and running. We only have a very small number existing now, taking action now. We did meet with one down in the Auckland region, one that's fledgling. They've been going for about a year with our support. And I guess the real value of having KMR working to support these little catchment groups was that actually no one has to reinvent any wheels. It's very time efficient and cost efficient to take the processes, the planting plans, have advice and expertise from our field advisors, from our nursery specialists to get things done on the ground in a really time effective way. So just to, really give governors comfort, I came away pretty tired from our last couple of weeks of engaging with senior officials and ministers' offices, but I'm sure Matuatami will agree, we came away feeling very heard, very understood and very valued and supported. So I am only looking positively forward. Thank you.
Okay, John?
Yes, great report, Justine. Now, you talked about planting, you're a bit worried about the dry, but I'm always worried about the next season, so summer of 2025-26. So, that's in the probably back of my mind. I don't worry too much. But what I would point out is that you've probably had one of the best seasons from June till probably January that we've seen in the north, being particularly dry in the winter, which makes it easy for us. So you've got record prices for beef, dairy. Wool's gone up from $1.50 to $4 this year. And lamb's gone up terrifically too, about $130 net. So these farmers who've probably got a little bit of money up their sleeve may start to think about these type of activities. So your advertising is probably critical. And
Yes.
I thought you might get to a stage where you might have to prioritise where planting got done, meaning that you might actually be in a position soon where you could say, your priority is not quite as high as this farm down the road. You prefer to go with him. So I live in hope anyway. Thank you, Justin.
Can I, if I may, just time available, just to respond? It's a very good point. We have in the plan to do an investment strategy to target and tailor our investment based on risk. I will not put that together into the Kororo Tupu Iho project as further advanced because I think it's inappropriate for our work our kaupapa to invest strategically on the landscape without having that cultural component integrated, and that's been our position for some time. I also think when you actually look at our catchment, half of the catchment is erosion prone. So we will not be turning away landowners. It's almost guaranteed. In fact, I'd say it is guaranteed that every landowner group we're working with has some areas on the landscape that they've approached us about that are absolutely highest priority for action. So I don't really see that we'll ever get to a point where we say, actually, we won't work with you, we'll work with your mate down the road or your neighbour down the road. That highly erodible land, 1/8 of the catchment is highly erodible. It's everywhere. And when you look at our indicative sediment risk layer in our digital tool system, there's nowhere that doesn't have red. Red is bad, amber is moderately bad. The reds and oranges are everywhere. So I can't see us prioritising spatially in that way. However, we may prioritise for different activities supported by KMR. I'm making this up, but there'll be areas that we'd get bigger bang for our buck by protecting and restoring wetlands, areas where we might focus on riparian margins, areas where we might say, actually, it's the steep eroding hill country on these particular soil types. That's where I see us prioritising too, rather than landowner or property or cadastre. Does that make sense, John?
Sorry, put on mute. Yes, Justine, it does. Yes, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
Good.
Well, just in addition to what's already been said by Justine around the meetings with officials and ministers, to add to that, we took the opportunity to give an update to the strategic advisor for the Prime Minister, Rangimarie Hunia, and something that KMR ought to keep in mind, that we also have avenues to make sure the Prime Minister hears directly about KMR and particularly the work that's going on. But ultimately, these decisions, whether it's Jobs for Nature or KMR per se, will be a decision taken at cabinet level, and we are about to re-engage with the Crown around the wider position that the Joint Committee takes and the pathway that it takes towards becoming a regulatory body by the end of 2025 calendar year. So on that note, well done, and want to endorse what Justine has already said about the tremendous support and work and effort put in by Kaipara Māori Kura and its associated staff, contractors and the likes to get us this far, and there's more to come in the near future. Hopefully we don't have the same level of intense uncertainty around budget preparation time on an annual national scale. Michelle, do you have a comment?
I did. I was just saying when you were talking about the cost benefit analysis, you know, and what sort of was involved with that. And then later on, you actually mentioned about the time effectiveness across the catchment groups when you're working with smaller groups. And that prompted me to wonder if the cost benefit analysis was actually was included in that. In the respect to those smaller catchment groups maybe receiving funding as well. So there's there's that's an incredible amount of social benefit, which I'm sure has never assessed officially, but has it included as one thing, but also tourism benefits, and that, you know, we're raising the profile of the catchment through obviously improvement, but also through being an exemplar of the largest kind of project of this kind. And so long term, there could be some incredible tourism opportunities for the country around that and showcasing this, especially through Earthshot, if that's, you know, successful. So I'm wondering if those are in there, and it's just something to bear in mind for future. If the job for nature funding is looking, you know, ministers look at that as to what's the benefit, etc. You know, are those elements also needing to be added? I'm not sure.
Yeah, kia ora. Just very briefly, Michelle, the tourism values, potential and actual are included in the cost benefit analysis. I do not believe the cost efficiencies and time efficiencies of having KMRs well tested and heavily adapted processes have been factored in, but I do know that the social good aspects as well as economic aspects have been generally. So I think, you know, it's a pretty good piece of work by Treasury and others, academic and others, very well tested methodology, cost benefit analysis framework. So I have confidence that it's within the ballpark. But we are participating in quite a large conversation around relative roles and respective roles in catchment groups. I think there's room for both. Where groups are doing good things on the ground, they should be supported. And we've told various officials and ministers that. We just happen to be in an environment in a catchment where there's not a lot supported right now and where we can help grow them. And that is helpful for everyone to not do beautification planting, not reinvent any wheels, and to get moving on the ground in terms of real impacts quite quickly. So.
Yeah, no, I was never thinking of, you know, a mechanism to pull funding from anywhere else. It was just that the funding would therefore go further because you're not having to replicate things, and so it would make it more effective with that through those multiple supports. Yeah, that's cool. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Amy?
Kia ora. Yeah, just thanks so much to Justine and the team. Awesome things happening in all spheres, and really pleased to have that cost benefit analysis available as we, you know, continue to work with government to give them give them confidence that this continues to be a really, really effective place to invest in the environment, but also get economic outcomes. So I think that's really great. Just, Tami, I'm aware you're only working on one screen, so just in support of you, noting that we need to move the apologies and also move this item. So I'm happy to be a mover for any of those, just to make sure we tick all our bits and pieces. So just let me know. Kia ora.
Thank you, Amy. While we're on that, can we do that right now, please? Amy moves the apologies as the table be accepted. Do you have a seconder?
Yep.
Okay, that was
Mike.
Thank you, Mike. And all those in favour, please say aye.
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 Those against, any abstentions, that's carried. Michael, you had a comment?
Yeah, just a quick comment, a little bit of a segue here. It did kind of like make me think when you were talking, Michelle, about how when I was in Porirua, we talked about our asset register, and you're talking about cost benefit. When they did the 1 billion trees, I was asking, could we include that as part of Purirua's asset when we started planting them, because the trees, and they're alive and they're growing and they become an asset. And I just think there might be some value in that going forward somewhere in the future. Just talking about when we plant things into Kaipara, into our area, and they grow into trees. There's a whole lot of stuff around that you already know, and you've logged in around habitat, climate resilience, and all that, and the value. I think that there might be somewhere in the future where we could explore actual value by way of asset register. It's something that it was in my mind back then, and you've just twigged it again.
Thank you, Michael, and want to reassure you that the value of the work of KMR goes beyond trees, flax, and other vegetation. Also goes to snapper nursery, the area upon which this will have the greatest level of productivity is in the snapper fishery. And currently, one of the organizations we are all connected with has ownership of some fish quota that was measured on the outside of the Moana. We don't want to have the value added to someone else's register when they had had little to do with the direct impact of increasing the value of the snapper nursery on the harbour, not the coastline, the harbour. So same scenario as we move the program towards a point where that can all be measured and quantified. So on that basis, if there are no further matters,
we need to move this report as well. I'm happy to do that.
Okay, so moved by Michelle, seconded by. Can we move to the recommendation, please, on this report?
Jack, I think.
Okay.
I'm happy to second.
Sorry, who was that there? Just apologies, it's hard to see when we're presenting.
Moved by
I
Michelle.
think it was Jack.
Oh, moved by
Seconded by
Michelle
Jack.
and seconded by Jack. Okay, thank you.
And the recommendations are to receive the report, Potataki report,
So we've got
dated
Michelle and
7th of April 2025. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those
Aye.
against? Any objections, any abstentions? That's carried. And the next item is a big thank you very much to you one and all for today's meeting, and look forward to our meeting in May. July. Here we go. All right. So on that note, Tracy, I hope that gives you a bit of a snapshot of where things are at and how things are moving in the Kaipara Moana space. A big thank you to all of the Joint Committee members, and look forward to engaging with Deborah Brewer when time will allow. Pass on our best wishes to her, please, Tracy, and encourage her to say that it's not all doom and gloom. So, kia ora tātou. Thank you to the Māori Kura staff, Lily and team, and please pass on our best wishes to
Lily?
Yeah.
Lily? Yes.
While she's on maternity leave. Galilee, yes. So on that note, there's no further business. Declare our meeting closed with a karakia. Kia tau anō, kia tātou katoa, te ato whai o tō tātou ari ki ai Ukraiti. Whiwhingata hiki te wairua tapu. Ake, amene. Go well. Kia ora tātou.
Thanks everyone.
Amene.
Appreciate your support.